Good morning. Today we look at Psalms 10, 11, and 12. And, I've talked about the Psalms being songs, and many of them are songs, but they're also prayers. And especially today, we're going to see some praying going on. But I was told one time many years ago that, that you can always tell when a pastor reads the Psalms a lot, because it's evident in his or her praying. And I probably don't spend nearly as much time in the Psalms as I should. And I know that I very seldom use phrases or verses from the Psalms in my prayer, but they do really resonate with us. Psalm 10 begins, why, O Lord, do you stand so far off? Why do you hide yourself from us? And I commented somewhat like that even just yesterday again, I'm sure, but it is. I mean, God is there. We know that. But it sometimes seems like he's so far away. And it's, in the song, he's everything to me, it's, I know that he's not a God who's way out there, but he's close. He's right nearby all the time. But it doesn't seem that way. And so this psalm starts with that prayer. Why are you so far away, Lord? Why do you hide yourselves in trouble? And it's I need you. I need you. I need to feel you beside me. I need to know that you walk with me, and I need to know and trust and believe that you watch out for us. Because the very next verse 2, in arrogance the wicked pressure the poor. Then let them be caught in the schemes they have devised, and this is definitely the way of the world. People set traps for others, or they pigeonhole them, and this, and they're this, and so often we do that by the way someone dresses or by the way someone speaks. And I just saw a post that said, what is a word that makes you think someone isn't very well educated? Well, it may not be that they're not very well educated, but they're speaking like their mom or their dad spoke, and they're using a word maybe improperly, like I seen, I saw, and but how many people say that, and does that? I mean, maybe you say that. I don't know, and I don't mean to offend you if you do, but this is the way we grow up. This is what we hear. And I know I've got some friends that use words that I think, is that even a word? But we kind of get caught up in that. And when I saw that, that question, what word is mispronounced or misused that makes you think someone isn't very well educated? Well, that may not have any bearing to do on who they are at all. It's just like the proper use of pronouns. I mean, proper use of pronouns, I think, really went out the window. And I've got a couple places that I blame for a little bit of that I won't go into right now. But anyway, the wicked boast of their desires. They're greedy. And there is no God. They don't need to worry about afterlife. They don't need to worry about their future. They aren't concerned with all of those things. Their mouths are filled with cursing, deceit, oppressions. Their eyes stealthily watch for the helpless, and they lurk in secret like a lion, And then they swoop and they crouch. That's verses 9 and 10. These people are just watching. They're just ready to pounce. And we know people like that are, they're just listening for a mistake, or they're looking for an opening, an opportunity to boom, lay it on the line for somebody. And it says in verse 11, these wicked people think in their hearts, God has forgotten. He has hidden his face. He'll never see. He isn't going to know what I've done. And I truly believe that some people think that. I mean, there is no God, and we don't need to worry about God. But then the prayer comes, rise up, O Lord. Lift up your hand. Do not forget the oppressed. Why do the wicked renounce you? And it's, it's that reflecting that, where are you, O Lord God? Why do you seem to be hidden? Why do you seem so far away, Because of all of this wicked stuff that's going on in the world and people taking advantage, where are you, O Lord? And then this Psalm 10 concludes with, O Lord, you hear the desires of the meek, you strengthen their hearts, you do justice for the orphan and the oppressed, so that those from the earth may strike terror no more. God has a way of taking care of the poor, the oppressed, and seeing to it that the wicked, those who are being the oppressor, don't always end up with the last word. Psalm 11, in the Lord I take refuge. How can you say to me, flee to the mountains? I mean, where is there another safe place other than God? I don't need to go here. I don't need to go there. God is here with me. I take refuge. I take comfort. I take strength in that. And in verse 4, begins with the Lord is in his holy temple. And that also in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 20, it's the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent. And I think about that, that God is where God is supposed to be. God is where he is everywhere, He's in his holy temple. And let the earth be silent. We don't need to cry out to seek him. We don't need to wonder and all of those things, because we know where God is. He says, it goes on, his eyes behold the gaze examines humankind. The Lord tests the righteous and the wicked, and his soul hates the lover of violence. I mean, God is love. I mean, this is the true essence of who God is. God is love. And because God is love, this is his outlook toward us. An outlook of love, of grace, of mercy, of peace. And, that slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and grace and mercy. This is the God of whom we worship and pray to. Chapter 11 ends with, the Lord is righteous. He loves righteous deeds, and the upright shall behold his face. The upright. Those who believe and trust in God. It doesn't mean that we always do exactly the right thing, but it means that we are upright, we are righteous in our relationship with God. We come to him with faith and honesty and confession and knowing and trusting in his love and in his grace. Psalm 12, again, a cry for help. And this song is by David, and it says on the Sheminith, which is an 8-stringed instrument, or an 8-stringed harp rather, not an instrument. So we've got, you got banjos with 4 strings and guitars with 6 or 12, and you got all kinds of different instruments, and it's kind of interesting to really think about the instruments that these people used all these centuries ago. But he says, help, O Lord. There is no longer anyone who is godly. I mean, isn't that a cry of despair? There is no one who is godly. And when I read that, it reminded me of Sunday, that Christ died for us for the ungodly. And I talked about, are we ungodly? It makes me feel better that verse 8 of chapter 6, that Christ died for us when we were yet sinners. Not ungodly, but sinners. But, you think about the world, there does seem to be an awful lot of ungodly people. Maybe not right in our area, but there are people that don't know God. There are people that don't revere God. There are people that don't care about God. He says, the faithful have disappeared from humankind. They utter lies to each other with flattering lips. And then may the Lord cut off all those flattering lips, the tongue that makes great boasts. With our tongues we will prevail. Take away their arrogance. Remind them of who they are. And remind them that it is the Lord that protects, leads, and guides us each and every day. So these are sung, like this one is sung to an 8-stringed harp, but yet beautiful, beautiful prayer, beautiful prayer. And this is the way we come to God, with our hearts and our emotions bared. We come to him 100% honest in who we are. Not two-faced, but, I hurt, Lord. I see what's going on in the world, Lord. And we need you, Lord, in our world. We need to change. We need to have people hear and understand the word of the Lord and the love of the